Welcome to Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Megan Kearns. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network, and I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
My name is Dave Riedel. My pronouns are he, him. I write about movies, and I, too, am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
And my name's Evan Crean. My pronouns are he, him. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living.
Yeah, you are.
So my pronouns are she, her. And before we dig into this week's episode, we want to tell you about our Patreon episode this week. Every week we do bonus episodes. And this week we talked about the 1999 teen rom-com classic, 10 Things I Hate About You.
I like the pause between teen rom-com and classic. That, I don't know, that made me giggle for some reason.
You know why? Because I call a lot of things a classic because it's a cult classic. It's kind of become a classic in pop culture. But then I always have you in the back of my head, Dave, being like, that's not a classic.
I just thought the pause was funny. That's all.
But that's what the pause is for.
Yeah. I would agree with you, though. I think that's, it's overall such a delight. How could it not be a classic? Especially if you were of the age to see it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad we did it, I guess is the short version.
Me too. We had a lovely conversation. It's a lot of fun. So if you're a patron, go check it out. And if you're not a patron, consider subscribing. And 10 Things I Hate About You is actually very fitting. And Evan, that was your great idea. Because this week we are talking about each of our top 10 lists for 2021. So we're talking about our top 10 films of the past year. And I'm excited to dig into what we each loved and see where we diverged, where we overlapped. This is always one of my favorite conversations of the year. So I'm super pumped and excited to dig in.
Yeah, me too.
Sure, I'm excited.
Well, on that note, Dave, why don't you kick things off by sharing your list?
Sure, happily. So my number 10 film, I'll just do them, one at a time. I got to tell you all the ones. My number 1 film is Passing.
Your number 1 or your number 10?
Sorry, my number 10. I beg your pardon. I'm such a dope. Yes, that's my number 10 film. Good God. I can't even keep a coherent thought in my head for 3 seconds. Yes, my number 10 film of the year is Passing, directed by Rebecca Hall, screenplay by her based on Nella Larson's book, starring Tessa Thompson, Ruth Negga, Andre Holland. I have a feeling this is on at least one other ballot. Yes?
It's in mine.
Yeah.
It was my number 3 film.
Evan, did it make yours?
It didn't make top 10, but it was definitely in my top 20 movies from this year.
Yeah. I just, what really did it for me got this. I mean, there are so many black and white movies this year, so it was kind of strange to.
There really are.
I know, it's weird.
It's wild.
It's like how there's, now, of course, I can't think of any. It's how all the body switching comedies came out in 1986 and 1987 at the same time. It's like this year, it's like every other movie is in black and white. But part of the reason I like this, Belfast, the one with Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah, come on. Part of the reason I like this is one, I liked the way it looked. It was. I felt like it was black and white for a reason other than how we talked about Come On. It's like, why is this movie in black and white? I don't even understand. And I really just liked Tessa Thompson and Ruth Negga's performances so much. I just thought that they were so good. That
those were my favorite performances of the year, actually.
Yeah, they were definitely they weren't in my top 3, but
they were in mine. Both of them.
They were really good. Yeah, but good looking movie too. Like great cinematography,
stunning,
haunting ending. That just
yeah. The more I thought about, that's another reason it made my top 10 is the more I think about ending is it's so open to interpretation, whether it's a push or a fall or a jump, it's like, who can say? And that was one of the things that actually kind of pushed it into the top 10 for me. Cause I was like, there's some other movies that I, quote, liked, unquote, better. But I think that ending combined with the cinematography, combined with the performances, and I really like them both, but I think Tessa Thompson really, I think she was really, or she is, because movies live in perpetuity unless they're lost films because they were shot on nitrate. But I digress. I think Tessa Thompson is just magnetic in this part. And to watch her in this role is really, I mean, joy is not the right word, I don't think, because of the subject matter maybe, but she's just so good, so believable, so, nuanced with looks and inflections and, the way she moves her eyebrows. It's just, she's the best in this part. So
I agree with you. I found both of them absolutely riveting and magnetic. So completely agree.
Unless you have anything to add, Megan, I was going to move on to my number 9 film.
Oh, yeah. I would just say that on top of all of the glowing praise you're giving it, which I completely am on board with and agree with, I also think, having watched it multiple times, I think it's a very layered film, very complex. It, in certain scenes, can seem very simple, like deceptively so, but I think there's just so much going on, like you were saying, with looks and with the framing of the camera and choice of color palette, because even though it's black and white, there's still lots of nuance with shades of gray. And so I just, because of the complexity of it. And also, yes, that it's so haunting. But I'm so glad it made your top 10. I'm excited.
Yeah. I'm excited too. Yay.
Yay!
my number 9 film is one of the last movies I saw before voting. Maybe the last movie. I'm not sure. The Worst Person in the World.
Nice.
Norwegian movie. I am not even going to attempt to pronounce these names, except maybe the director is Joachim Trier. Does that sound right?
It's Joachim.
Well, because it's Norwegian, so of course. But anyway, the 2 lead performances in this. First of all, the title, The Worst Person in the World, is sort of amazing.
It's a little clickbaity.
It's definitely clickbaity. And it's not even really, one of the other characters says that he's the worst person in the world. I don't remember who says it, which of the other men in this, well, other men, she's not a man, she's a woman. Which one of the other characters says it. But I like, it is clickbaity, and when you watch it, like, I don't really know what I was expecting other than it was getting like a lot of praise. And I was like, okay, I'll watch this movie and it looks interesting. And obviously she's not the worst person in the world. There are lots of people worse than she is. But I think the idea is that, maybe you feel this way because things in your life aren't going the way you think they will, or the impacts you have on relationships. Your relationships don't work out the way you think you will. They will. You look back on decisions you've made and you're like, and then you look at other decisions, you're like, oh no, that was totally right. And this is just it's not even a slight, it just follows our main character, Julie, from roughly, what is she, in her early 20s to her late 20s? Did this make your ballot, either of you?
No, it didn't make mine.
This didn't make my ballot, but this would be in my top 20.
Yeah.
And the supporting actor, Anders
Danielson Lee.
Thank you. Yes, he made my ballot for best supporting actor.
He did. He was my number 1 best supporting actor. He is just, it's a flawless performance.
It's so good. It really is so good.
Not that the woman who plays Julie isn't great. She is.
Oh no, she is great.
But he is so. This is one of those things. I've seen him in other movies, and it's just. And I've always liked him, but in this, I just thought, he is this guy. It's just one of those, I would call it like a transparent performance, in the sense that you're like looking through the actor to the character, like you don't even see the actor anymore.
He just melts into the character.
Totally. And I just love the story about, movies about people who are struggling with their identities, whatever their identity is, and their role in life and what they think they're supposed to do. All that shit just always, if it's done well, rings true to me. So that's a big part of the reason I got into it as much as I did. And there were also some really interesting, not sci-fi flourishes, but just some unusual because it's not a sci-fi movie, but there are some
psychedelic.
There you go. Like when time slows down and she runs to, she leaves the apartment with Anders Danielson Lee.
Yeah, it's a very magical realist touch.
That's the phrase. That's what I'm looking for.
You're welcome.
Like time slows down and she runs all the way to the other guy and like spends a whole day with him, and then runs back, and she hasn't, like, she spent a whole day with the other guy and evening, I think, but then she runs back to her apartment and it's the moment she left.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few moments, not specifically like that, but there are a few magical realism moments that really work.
And some magical mushroom moments.
Yes, there are those too. That's right. She trips on mushrooms. Oh my God. I usually don't like the way they portray drug trips in movies because it's almost always wrong, but that one's pretty close to what can happen. And am I speaking from experience? I don't know.
I was going to say, I'll have to take your word for it.
So anyway, that was my number 9.
That's also a really well-written movie too.
Yeah. Solid work all around. Anybody have any additional thoughts on that one?
Nope.
Numero 8. I got these in the wrong order. I'm Your Man, which is
nice.
Yeah. Loved that movie.
Yeah, I just was, it's funny. A lot of non-English language movies, I don't even, made my list this year. My number 1 movie, which we'll get to, is tell you about what it is when we get there. But anyway, this is a German movie, or is it Austrian? I can't remember. They speak German in the movie. And this is the one about the robot. Dan Stevens is a robot. And Maren Eggert is the woman who's supposed to test out the robot. She's the main character. I just really... I don't really think I can articulate very well why I liked this so much, other than, for one thing, the way that the AI works in the movie is the robot gets smarter as time goes on, like learning your things, and it almost becomes, it's not human, but I always feel like in movies where you have androids or robots or whatever, it's going to be like Alien, where Ian Holm just turns evil for no reason. And in this movie, Dan Stevens always has this smile, or he's about to smile on his face, and it's like, oh my God, is he going to turn evil? And he never does. He's delightful. But I just really liked the whole question of what is it to be human? What is it to interact with other humans? What are relationships? How do they work? What does one person bring out in us? Is this, something, can you replicate, a happy relationship with a non-human? I don't know. I'm blubbering, but I'm not blubbering. I'm babbling.
No,
but it's a delightful film, and it's
It
really
really
smart.
is. And it's also really funny too.
Yes,
in very subtle ways. And a lot of that is because there's a whole bunch of, there are several jokes about how Dan Stevens, who does speak German, but he speaks it according to the characters in the movie with an English accent, which I think that's really funny, and how many times it comes up. I don't know. So, and then when you figure out that his handler is a robot too, that's fun. Anyway, I really
movie.
I really had a lot of
It's
fun.
funny. It's insightful. It's delightful. It's well acted. It's all those things. I really enjoyed it too.
And you enjoyed it, right, Megan? You said that, didn't you?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
you
loved
just
it. This didn't make my top 10, but it definitely made my top 20.
Yeah. All right. Well, then moving on to my next movie. I don't know which number I've come to. I think this is number 7.
It is number 7.
The Green Knight, written and directed by David Lowery. This is one of those things where it's like everyone has for years talked about how great Dev Patel is, and I've never seen the one that made him the Danny Boyle movie, Slumdog Millionaire. I've never seen that. And the only thing I've really seen him in is that terrible Aaron Sorkin show, The Newsroom. And so
that is not a true showcasing of his talents, to be fair.
It's not a showcasing of anybody's fucking talent, that show. So I wouldn't say that I ran cold on him, but it's just like, Dev Patel, whatever. And then I saw him in this and I'm like, dude, you fucking kicked this movie's ass. You are awesome in this part,
He is. He was one of my top 3 actors for the year.
Yeah.
And this was also on my ballot too.
Cool.
So I love that you had it too, because it's so good.
Yeah, it's just really great. You know, I'm not really a big sword and sorcery kind of person, but God damn it, if this movie didn't work from start to finish for me. I loved all the mystical stuff and the unexplained, just how, you know, I like that they don't explain the myth of the Green Knight. You're just launched into the story.
Yep.
You know?
It's so much better that they don't waste exposition. It's just, nope, here we are.
Yeah, there's no exposition in this movie. None. And it's awesome. You're just kind of like, you're either on board or you're not, basically.
Yep.
And I got on board. And Joel Edgerton, fun as always. Love me some Joel Edgerton. The Knight, of course, is the Ralph Ineson. Is that his name?
Yes.
The Green Knight, I mean, who you may recall from The Office, but also as the head of the family, the patriarch, whatever, in The Witch, who gets impaled by a goat. So he was quite fine as the Green Knight. And I loved Dev Patel's mother. I loved how the Sean Harris as the king, you know, a lot of times you see the king in this story kind of like, and he's like this sort of tender, you know, like, oh, you must go on your way and that will be very difficult and I am sad for you. It's just,
yeah, he's very gentle.
Yeah, it's the best. It's really kind of nice. It's like, oh, people in this movie aren't assholes. I mean, there are some assholes.
Whoa. There's a lot of assholes in this movie.
Well, sure. That's why I said there are some assholes. But overall, I just thought just heart-pounding, good action, good weirdness. You know, I love me some no exposition. So that was a lot of fun for me. Megan, you said it was on your ballot too.
It is on my ballot. Yeah, I think David Lowery is a really fantastic director. I love his vision. I'm always intrigued to see what he's going to do with a film. And I think this is such a fantastic adaptation. And I love that he was faithful in certain ways, but also very much made this his own. I found this riveting from start to finish. And it is so weird and it revels in its mystical weirdness. And I love that. I love the look of it, the cinematography, production design, gorgeous.
It's a beautiful movie.
It really is. And I think Dev Patel is so good. I think the acting across the board is really fantastic. Like you said, Sarita Choudhury, who plays his mother, she's always great, but she's exceptional here. And because most of the acting she's doing is wordless, she conveys so many emotions just through her body language and face. So yeah, I loved this. I thought this was great. This was another one that just stuck with me through most of the year.
Evan, did you, I know you saw it, but it didn't make your list, I don't think, right?
No, it didn't. But I definitely appreciate aspects of it. I liked Dev Patel quite a bit. I love the art direction of this film. And yeah, there are definitely parts of it I dug.
Cool. Or as Andy Samberg would say, cool. Number 6 on my list is Together Together.
Ooh,
which
a lovely film. I'm
guessing nobody else had on their ballot. Written and directed by Nicole Beckwith, starring Patty Harrison and Ed Helms. I just really loved the relationship. First of all, I loved Patty Harrison's portrayal of Anna. Loved her. Loved Ed Helms doing kind of a variation on the Ed Helms thing, but in a very nice, organic way. Nice is a bad word, but sorry. And I really just dug this movie, which is about Patty Harrison as a surrogate for Ed Helms, who's going to have a kid. He's going to have a kid on his own, be a single father. And the friendship that they form over the course of the pregnancy, and just how, as close as they get. I talked about this when we did the show, when we talked about it in the show the first time. I kind of feel like their friendship ends when the child is born, the way the movie ends. It was a very bittersweet ending for me, and it just stuck with me, and I loved it. I don't want to say their friendship ends. Their friendship changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought Patty Harrison was great. She's funny and just a great performance.
Yeah, I thought this was a good movie as well. Sweet and bittersweet at the same time. and I liked the performances, and I thought they had good chemistry together. And I always like seeing movies, and I think we should see more movies about platonic love and other kinds of love that can exist between people, not just romantic love.
Yeah.
So.
She says at one point to Ed Helms, "I love you, but not in a gross way." It's just such a great line. Anyway, Megan, do you have anything to say about this one?
No, like I said, it's a lovely film, and I agree with both of what you're saying. So,
yay! Alrighty, number 5 on my list, The Dry, which is, in case anybody forgot, it's an Australian movie directed by Robert Connolly, starring Eric Bana as a police officer who goes home to attend a funeral, and he has to deal with being implicated in a crime that happened, 2 decades ago? Long time ago, when he was a teenager, and between him and some of his friends. And it's just, I like the slow burn of this movie, because it's a thriller, or it's thriller-esque, but it's also a mystery. And I also like that the main character, Eric Bana, is wrong. Everybody's wrong about what they think happened 20 years ago, which is the unsolved death of one of his friends. I don't know. It's not like in the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, when even though Batman's Batman, he's like tricked by every villain in the movie. And you're like, wait a minute, why is this guy the savior of Gotham City? He's an idiot. But in this, it's like, oh, everybody's wrong about what happened here. And when we do finally find out, it's heartbreaking. And I don't know. I also love all movies that are Australian, but like dark. So, which this is. And The Dry, of course, refers to the drought in the area where the movie takes place. Good stuff.
Yeah, Eric Bana is great in it.
Oh, he's so good. I heard him on a podcast. I think it was Mark Maron's podcast about 6 months ago, or whenever this came out. And he was just talking about like why he's not a movie star. And it was just he was kind of like, I just don't really want to be, after the Hulk. Yeah,
I like that.
After the Hulk, it was kind of like, I'm not sure if this is for me.
I like that. Good for him.
Yeah. He's just like, so yeah, I just do the things that I like, which is not what he sounds like at all. But anyway, that was on my list as number 5. At number 4, King Richard. Now, biopics are not my thing. Sports biopics are not my thing. I do follow tennis, so I know the Williams sisters' story, but this is about their father and his efforts to get Serena, and particularly they focus more on Venus than they do Serena. Although Serena's obviously a big part of the story too, but focusing on getting who would become I think Serena Williams, you could say, is the greatest professional tennis player ever. And Venus is in the top 10, and what he does to get them where they are and or where they end up, and also the family dynamic and the closeness of their family, and how he's sometimes is kind of a jerk, and his wife is like, you're a jerk. And I just kind of love that she, there are scenes where she's like, you got to stop doing this shit. There are some things that don't work, like as far as like the whole like random drive-by shooting, not random, the drive-by shooting scene where you get the impression that Richard's going to like shoot some guy who beat him up at the tennis court, and then that guy gets gunned down at a drive-by shooting, which didn't happen in real life, but or at least not the way it's portrayed. So they're screenplay things that you've got to cram in, X, Y, and Z, because this covers a big swath of the early part of Venus and Serena's career. But I just really dug all the performances. Will Smith is very un-Will Smith-like as Richard Williams. I really liked Sonny Sidney, who plays Venus, and John Bernthal warmed on me over time with his accent and hair and mustache.
Yeah. He was funny. I really liked him in the supporting role. It felt different than other things I've seen him in, both like tonally and performance. And I was actually reading that he did he trained he was training in tennis, like learning tennis, and also getting practice coaching in tennis when he was preparing for this role.
That.
Apparently, he's very into preparing for his roles.
That's why he's so good.
Yep.
He is good.
But agreed, this movie, I really enjoyed this movie as well. And I don't think it made my top 20, but some really great performances from Will Smith and Anjanou Ellis.
Yes,
she's particular. Great. And just like a really solid sports movie. And just a compelling story overall, I think.
Megan, did you like King Richard? Did you see King Richard?
Yeah, we reviewed it.
No, I know.
I liked it when I saw it. It definitely did not stay with me.
Yeah. No, I hear that. It's definitely, it's not for everyone.
I do think Will Smith is really good in it, and so are Anjanou Ellis, and so are the girls who play Venus and Serena. But for me, the movie as a whole is not my jam.
Number 3 on the old list is Licorice Pizza. I don't know how much we need to talk about this because I feel like everyone's talking about this movie.
But not everyone's heard our opinions on it.
That's true. This is, as you all know, I am hot and cold on Paul Thomas Anderson. For every There Will Be Blood, there is a Magnolia or a Punch Drunk Love, which thank God that movie's only 88 minutes long. Anyway, this is the story of platonic love of a way too old for... This is one of those things where you feel kind of weird liking it as much as you do, because if it were reversed, if it were a 25-year-old man having a friendship with a 15-year-old girl, that would be super creepy. And this is kind of creepy, but it becomes clear very early on that they're just friends. And this is another story about platonic love, about this kid who starts a bunch of businesses and is a wannabe actor and is not a little bit awkward. He's a lot awkward. It's the early 70s. It's like 73, I think, because Nixon is still president. And Alana Haim from Haim is the protagonist. She's great. This is her first major role. Is this her first movie? I don't know. I should have looked that up.
Yeah, it is.
First movie? Ooh.
Yep.
Good on you for getting the lead from Paul Thomas Anderson in your first movie. And the other thing I liked about this so much is how it gets. I don't remember the 70s well enough, and I wasn't alive in 1973 to know whether this is right, but it feels right. So I'm going to go with it's right. And I also love the scene where she's driving the truck backwards. So, because if you've ever driven a truck backwards, yikes. So I don't know. I just really had fun with this. I think that there is some unfortunate stunt casting with Sean Penn and Tom Waits, which really there's like a 15 or 20 minutes of this movie that just could have gone away and we would have lost nothing, but still enjoyed it nonetheless. That's my take on that.
Cool.
Anyone else?
I haven't seen it yet.
Well,
yeah, me neither.
Number 2 on the list, Language Lessons.
Yay!
Yeah.
Directed by Natalie Morales, written by Natalie Morales and Mark Duplass, and is basically just a 2-person Zoom movie about these. It's about these two kids. Natalie Morales is a Spanish teacher, and Mark Duplass is her student, although he speaks Spanish fairly well, conversationally at least. And their friendship develops over time, and a lot of it is about how the misconceptions we have about each other when we just make assumptions, and how you get through that, and how their friendship develops despite the fact that he's a little bit of a bonehead. So I don't really have much more to say about it because we talked about it a bunch, and I know you both liked it a lot too. Did it make your list, either of you?
Yeah, it actually made my top slot. Now to spoil that.
Wow.
Yeah, it was my number 1.
Wow, and it did not make my top 10, but it did make my top 20.
Yeah. I just really loved this from start to finish.
Same.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. And it's just
a sweet movie.
It's very sweet and open-hearted, and
yeah. It hits you with a real gut punch toward the beginning when you find out that it's like Mark Duplass's partner has gotten him these lessons and then he dies. It's like, oh my God.
100 hours of lessons, I think it is.
But really great movie and great. Was it Natalie Morales, was it her directorial debut? Because I know she had 2 movies that came out this year that she directed, this and Plan B, and I thought both were fantastic, but this one for me like really knocked it out of the park, and it hit me in all the emotional places, and I just thought it was great. And once again, getting back to platonic love, another great story about platonic love this year.
Yeah, that's right.
I just love that Natalie Morales is a queer woman and her co-protagonist is also a queer person. So
oh yeah, that's right.
I loved that. And I love their banter. I love the writing. I love the acting in this. Yeah. I was really sad that this did not make my top 10, which is usually a sign that I probably should have put it in my top 10. But it is wonderful. I'm so glad that you guys had it on your ballots because it was great.
Yeah, it is great. My number 1 movie of the year, is Flea, which is a documentary, and it's animated. I really like documentaries. Animated documentaries. But God damn it, if this didn't work for me. This is a story about a man from Afghanistan who is separated from his family. He is a refugee in Denmark or Sweden. God, now I can't even remember. And I just watched it again like 2 weeks ago or a month ago or whenever we were doing our ballots. But anyway, it's just this heartbreaking and human story of struggle and how Amin is gay and he can't come out to anyone, he feels like, and that's a big part of his identity and he has to keep it hidden. And so when he finally does come out to his family, he is spoiler, he is they are completely accepting of him, which he is not expecting, and is a big relief at the end of the movie, I might add. And it's just nice to see a story like this with a happy ending instead of a tragic one. And I think that the way, trying to keep his identity secret is part of the reason that it's animated. So good choice. And it's just such, it just really, from the moment it began to the moment it ended, I was just like, I'd said riveted about another movie, and I was riveted by this too, just with this guy the whole way and just being like, I hope everything works out. I hope everything works out. Oh my God, something terrible happened. I hope everything works out. And then it works out as best as it can. Just loved it. That's Flea. That's my top 10 list.
Flea is a great documentary. It really is.
Yeah. This is the second time I've had a documentary be my number 1 film.
Oh, wow. That's right.
Yeah. I had a couple 3 years ago, the one about the LA riots. I don't remember what it's called now, of course. But that was, yeah. I mean, I like the docs. When the docs are good, the docs go high on the list. So
yeah,
anyway,
a good one.
Nice.
Evan, I think it's your turn. Or is it
Megan,
your turn? I don't remember.
No, I'm going last. So Evan is next.
All right. Well, my number 1, that's been spoiled.
Spoiler.
But it felt weird not to say anything during that segment talking about language lessons. But I think that was the only overlap between our lists. So for me, my number 10 film was First Date, which I talked about during our Sundance episode. It was my favorite movie that I saw at Sundance. It's just zany, fun movie about a guy who buys this used car so he can go down on a date, and it's just hilarious, and it's kind of a thriller, kind of a crime movie, and a comedy. And I actually ended up watching it. It's on Hulu right now. Ended up watching it again the night that we were doing our voting for BAFTA, before I sat down and started tallying everybody's ballots up. And I enjoyed it just as much. I was staying with my in-laws at the time, and they turned it on and they thought it was a hoot. So I was glad that they had a good time watching it. It's just so zany and so fun. And I also just like to use my 10 spot. Like we've talked about this on the show before, and I know this is a big thing Chris liked to do with his ballot, for something that probably flew under the radar or might not get much kind of attention from other folks. So First Date ended up in my number 10 slot because I always like to give it up for a movie that I enjoy that maybe other people might not have caught.
Yeah, I think Chris's big number 10 was Tusk by Kevin Smith.
But let's see. So my number 9 was Beans, which is
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
which I thought was just a fantastic movie.
God, I forgot about Beans.
Yeah, it really hit me. It was very late. It's Tracy Deer wrote and directed it, and it's just a really compelling story, coming of age story, but also an indigenous story about a period in the early 90s in Canada. And it was just, I don't know, I just thought it was a really compelling film and really well done, well acted, and it stuck with me. It was one of those movies I kept going back and thinking about because it had a lot of great themes. It was just really compelling, and I just thought it was a fantastic movie.
Yeah, agree with all that.
My number 8 choice was Limbo, which is a movie that we saw ages and ages and ages ago, but it also stuck with me. It's written and directed by Ben Sharrock, and it was about a group of refugees who are in Scotland.
Right, I forgot about Limbo.
Island.
Oh,
don't forget about it. It's so good.
It's a great movie. Oh, it's so great.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm pissed off at myself now.
Yeah, just a really compelling story about these guys who are refugees who are kind of waiting around in limbo, waiting to find out if they're, get accepted as for political asylum. And it's just, it was a really well done, well acted, gorgeous film, like really fantastic cinematography and great cast. It was just, it was another movie that had a lot of stuff to think about, a lot of themes. Really just like putting you in other people's shoes. And I love movies that do that. And that's why Beans resonated with me. This movie resonated, just showing me different people's experiences, putting me in their shoes and showing me what they're going through and the trials and tribulations, especially, being people who are seeking asylum and are kind of in a desperate situation, but they're kind of just have to like sit around and twiddle their thumbs and pass the time until they can find out either way whether they're going to get accepted or not. And so,
Limbo is also a gut punch too, especially the second half of the film.
Oof, yeah. It is, because there's just stuff that comes up with the other refugees, and one of them, I don't know, one of them freezes to death. That was pretty horrendous.
Oh my God, yes.
But yeah, just a really great movie, and it was one I saw earlier in the year in like March or April, I think is when we saw it, and I just couldn't get out of my head. That was really great. My number 7 is Shiva Baby.
Yes! It's also Megan, on my list.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, Shiva Baby was one, I think it came out like really early in the year last year, like in like January or February.
And I actually saw it the year before at a film fest.
Same.
So and then it came to another film fest early in the year too, because I saw it at 2 different film fests, and then it came out.
Yeah. So that written and directed by Emma Seligman. And just a hilarious fucking movie about a college student. I can't remember if she's a recent graduate or if she's about to graduate.
No, she's about to graduate. She's still in college.
That's right. Yeah. And she goes to the Shiva with her family.
But she doesn't know who's died.
Right. Yeah. It's a very Jewish movie. But it's just so fucking funny. Just like top to bottom hilarious. Like all of the different complications of her being in a situation. Her ex-girlfriend is there. The guy that she's a sugar baby or sugar daddy, what arrangement, he's there with his wife and kid. It's a comedy, but it's also a horror movie, and it's just so well done as a horror movie. The music, the editing, it's just it was so fucking funny. And
it is so funny, but it is so anxiety inducing and tense. I was tense the entire time, and it's a short run time, but yeah. And the second time I watched it and the third time I watched it, it was still just as tense. It's so good, though.
Yeah.
So good.
And it's only an hour and 17 minutes, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, it really is.
It really gets you in that amount of time. But it's just so funny. And the performer, like the Fred Melamed and Polly Draper, who play her parents, are fucking funny in this, too. They're just, oh my God.
Polly Draper made my ballot for Best Supporting Actress. She was one of the my top 3. Yeah, I think her performance was so flawless and just stuck with me all year. Yeah, she was great.
Yeah. Loved Shiva Baby. I'm glad to hear it was on your which spot did it hit in your
We're going to find out.
Okay. Okay. So, all right. So that was Shiva Baby. The next one on my list is Identifying Features, which I'm dead certain is on your ballot, Megan.
Oh my God. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Another haunting movie that really stuck with me, about a mother who's trying to find her son. He was supposed to sneak over the border from Mexico into the U.S. He's gone missing. She's not sure if he's dead. And it's all about her journey all over Mexico to try and find him. And she has to navigate around the drug cartels and all kinds of danger and bureaucracy. And it's just a gut punch of a movie. It's gorgeous, like incredible cinematography, but just so tragic and so moving and just... I think I saw it. Yeah, I think it also came out like early in the year, and just I could not stop thinking about it.
It came out in January.
Yeah, just a hell of a fucking movie.
Yep, and a very underrated film that I wish more people had seen.
Same. Yeah, it seemed like a movie that kind of flew under the radar for a lot of people, and I wish they had seen it because it was extremely compelling and it just really freaking good. Let's see. So where are we now? We've got, that was number 6. Number 5 for me was Saint Maud, which was some good horror representation on my ballot here, especially as we're getting toward the top of the the list. But yeah, Saint Maud I thought was just another just amazing horror movie, but it's the performances, it's the editing, it's the like fucked up visuals.
Oh my God, that ending is still terrorizing me.
Yeah, it has a haunting ending. It's such a great story about someone like unraveling and their like intersection of them losing their grip on reality and embracing religion in a really toxic, scary way.
The obsession is running strong in that one. But it's so good.
Yeah, it's so good. It was one of those movies that like people saw at festivals and then just took like forever and ever and ever. They kept bumping the release date back. And so the movie, if you look on IMDb, it's just 2019. We didn't get a chance to see it until like 2021 in any kind of scale. So yeah, it was worth the wait, I would say.
That was one I was very sad didn't make my top 10. It's like my number 11. It's so good.
Yeah, it is really good. And just some horrifying imagery. It's definitely not for people with like people who get super squeamish or easily queasy. Definitely you cannot watch Saint Maud because it's oof.
Okay, noted.
So the next one on my list is Riders of Justice.
Ooh, great movie.
Yeah.
I thought Mads Mikkelsen is just, he's always good, but he is just really freaking good in this movie. And it's such a, like you read the summary on paper and you're like, okay, I think it's going to be this like thriller about these guys trying to track down, people who committed this terrorist act, and Mads Mikkelsen's wife died. And then it turns into just such a different movie, but I mean that in the best way. It's like, you enter the story by way of like revenge, but then you end up with a story about like PTSD and like
community,
community and unexpected friendships and like chosen family. It's so good. And it just was in such an unexpected way and so pleasantly surprising with its performances, the chemistry of the people in it, the twists and turns that the story takes, and dealing with the idea of like faith and destiny and all kinds of like themes that you would not expect based on paper, seeing what this movie is supposed to be about.
Right.
I have to say I know everybody loves Mads Mikkelsen so much, but between this and Another Round, I'm like, I need to go back and watch all of his.
Oh, did you ever see the one where he's stranded in the Arctic?
No.
Oh God.
No, I haven't seen very many of his films And I haven't seen Hannibal. So yeah, no, I haven't. So between these two performances, he is just so magnetic and I adore him. And yeah, this movie is so good. It's such a great film. I love that it's on your top list.
It's really great.
So good. Number 3 is 9 Days, which
good choice. Good choice.
Yeah, just another film that stuck with me. Just this idea that you're interviewing people to decide whether they're going to live, to have lives. It's a heartbreaking movie, but moving, and there's a lot of layers, and there's a lot to think about. And I love Winston Duke in it. I love Zazie Bates. And I love Benedict Wong. He was really good.
He was good
in it. Yeah, I always enjoy him, and I feel like he often does not get the praise that he deserves.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
about Winston Duke, he was my number 2 actor for the year. He was so good.
He's so great in this part.
Yeah, I love it. Love him. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, big fan. Obviously, number 3. Number 2 was Lucky, which is another movie. I have a bunch of movies on here that we saw like early in the year that just really stuck with me.
No, Lucky is great.
One of them. Also, one I feel like I kept hearing about from people who saw it at film festivals before I got a chance to see it. And yeah, I think it's a really compelling horror movie, but horror with great social commentary at the same time. This idea that like the figure stalking her is like a metaphor for misogyny and the patriarchy, and I just thought it was extremely well done and really compelling, but also terrifying from a horror perspective. So it covers a lot of ground in a good way.
Yeah. Wow. Deep cuts this year, Evan.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we already know my number 1 is Language Lessons. So let's move on because I want to hear about Megan's top 10.
Oh, I was like, you couldn't say something about Language Lessons. I feel badly because it's your number 1.
No, I know. We talked about it. We said we gushed.
It is so good though.
Yeah.
All right. It's so funny though. A lot of the films on your list, well, some of them, there's some overlap as we'll see, but some of them that you had on your list, Evan, they like didn't make mine, but they'd be in like my top 20 because I say this every year, there were so many great films because there really are. I can't stress that enough. If you think that they're not great films, I would argue you're not watching a broad enough range of films.
Agreed. 100%. Yeah.
Yes. So my top 10 film, keeping the horror train going, is Censor, Prano Bailey Bond's amazing horror film about the age of the video nasties in the 80s in the UK. And I saw this at Sundance and it stuck with me. It haunted me for months. And then when I saw it again to review it when it came out, I was just as floored by it. It is such a great film. It's fascinating. It is such a compelling look at the intersection of violence in media and how like, violence on film, and then how the media takes that and blames a lot of social problems on violence in film and media when really the problem is that there are not enough social programs and funding for them. And she very deftly explores that. And the protagonist it's an incredible lead performance. And the protagonist is a censor herself, where she's cutting material out of horror films, particularly the video nasties, these exploitation films. And she's dealing with the trauma of her sister who has been missing for many, many years. And she keeps thinking she's seeing her sister on these films or in these films when she's watching them. And so this leads her kind of down this path and to try to find her sister, and reality also unravels for her as well. And this is it's incredibly well acted. It's really well shot and well edited and just a great, great film. And it's on Hulu now, so you can see it if you haven't yet. So good.
I intend to.
I wanted to see it and I didn't. It reminds me, the way you're describing it in a way, of Barbarian Sound Studio. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Nope. Don't even know what that is.
It's a movie with Toby Jones where he is a Foley artist for horror films. And so it's a little different because it's not about, what this is about.
It's not about censoring, right?
Right. But he starts to lose his grip on reality because, the sound of the knife going in the watermelon. Anyway, if you get a chance.
No, it definitely sounds like there's some really clear parallels. And yeah, because as she's watching these films, she's always been a really like tough censor where she's cutting things out and she's very firm in what she thinks and she doesn't really seem to let it get to her. But as she keeps watching and as this is kind of commingling with her trauma about her sister, she starts seeing things in her personal life and seeing things on screen, and maybe they're there, maybe they're not. Yeah. So it definitely is impacting her, but it's so interesting to see how gender and exploitation of women and violence all coalesces. And so it's really great. It's such a great film. So my number 9 film is Nicole Riegel's Holler.
Oh,
that's a good one.
That is good.
Which I adored. I love Jessica Barden in this performance. She's so good. I love Austin Emilio in this. He was one of my top picks for Best Supporting Actor. And yeah, this was just such a raw, emotional, moving film. And it's a story we've seen so many times, seeing, kind of a coming of age story about a teen who's living in an impoverished community. But this is done in such a sharply nuanced way. And it's having read interviews with Nicole Riegel, it's very clear this is an extremely personal story for her. And I think that's really well conveyed in the film. Like, it feels extremely authentic. It doesn't minimize these characters. No one is a caricature. Everyone is fully fleshed out. And you really feel the weight of these decisions. And, do I bust my ass in school getting good grades or make money so I can try to get out? Like, which is the best way to get out? And another film that stuck with me. And that's the thing. For all of the films on my list are all films that haunted me, all that stayed with me for months and months and months. And for me personally, that's always the measure of what are the best films. Like, what are the films that haunt me at night? What are the films where scenes come to me? And this was one that really, really stuck with me that I couldn't stop thinking about.
It was a good one.
Yeah.
I remember enjoying it. I don't think it made my top movies, but it was another really solid movie that we saw this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, I don't think we see enough films that are sensitive to impoverished communities. And I wish we saw more films that did deal with poverty and did deal with class issues in a really sensitive way, because so often it's very clear that people haven't come from those communities and they're kind of looking at it in kind of a voyeuristic kind of way. And that's not at all what's happening here. And that just made me really appreciate it. And there's so much emotion and acting happening in wordless scenes, especially with Jessica Barden, because she's just watching everyone around her. And it's really fascinating to see her reactions to the kind of chaos happening around her. So yeah, loved this. So my number 8 film is Celine Shiyama's Petite Mammal, which I loved so
That's
much.
a good one.
It is a good one. I love it. It made me cry, which that's actually not the mark of a good film because many films make me cry. So I can't say that's what made it good. But she's my favorite filmmaker, one of. And so, there's that. Her films are always beautiful to look at. And I think she has such a great eye for actors. I think she really brings out the best in actors, and especially young actors. And there was a review I read about this film that one of the great things is that so often when you have films about children, because they're two twin sisters, but they're not playing twin sisters in the film. They're playing mother and daughter because it's a fantasy where the daughter is seeing her mother at a young age. So kind of moving back and forth in time in a really sweet way. But I read in this review that what's great about this film is that Celine Shiyama really is sensitive to children, and she always depicts children because many of her films are stories about teens and children, and she never talks down to the children. Like the stories in the films always respect them and always respect that their feelings and emotions and decisions are valid. And you don't always see that. And so I really love that. And I love the concept of this. And I love that this is such a quiet, sweet film that, again, stuck with me and I kept thinking about. And now we're on 7. I was like, my next film, I was going to say 8, but no, I just did 8. My number 7 film was Dune, Denis Villeneuve's Dune.
Yeah.
Which I loved.
Yeah, I really liked it a lot too.
because it's so good. Yeah, this was a film I saw a couple of times and I loved it. Even, I don't want to say even more, certainly just as much, if not more, watching it again. And this was also one that surprised me because I love the book and I love Lynch's version too. So I knew I would at least like it, or I was pretty sure because I liked Denis Villeneuve's work a lot. But it just surprised me how much I enjoyed this and how much it stuck with me and how much I kept ruminating various scenes and character arcs and visuals. And yeah, I just found this absolutely mesmerizing and I loved being immersed in this world. And Dave, you had mentioned the thing you liked about The Green Knight was its lack of exposition. That is also what I love about Dune.
Yeah.
It just plops you right in. There's not a lot of exposition. And if you're familiar with the stories, you know where things are going. And, maybe you don't if you're not familiar with it, but I'm okay with that. I like kind of just going on the ride of where a filmmaker wants to take you. And I really love that about this. And yeah, Rebecca Ferguson is great, as always.
Oh, yeah.
And I really also love Jason Momoa in this. I think he's really, really good.
Although he does seem like he's in a different movie from everyone.
He does, but I think his character is that way.
Right. No, I don't think that's detrimental to it. It's just,
no.
It's stark how different.
It is. Yeah. He's having so much fun here. He has such an easy, effortless charisma. Yeah. He definitely isn't a different, but it works.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And then my next film, my number 6 film is The Green Knight, as we already talked about. And that's another mesmerizing spectacle of a film that I loved. And my number 5 film is Shiva Baby.
Nice.
It's so good. The other thing I wanted to say about Shiva Baby, in addition to the horror, in addition to the comedy, of which there is so much, and this is a hilarious film. It's one of the films that made me laugh out loud, which not a lot of comedies actually do that. They might make me chuckle, I might be amused, but no, this made me actually laugh hard out loud both times I watch it. Actually, did I watch it 3 times? Possibly 3. But anyway, what I also really love about this is I love that Emma Seligman is a queer woman. She is bi and her protagonist is bi. And I love that because as a bi woman, I don't see enough representation of myself as being queer or bi. So I love seeing that here. And yeah, I love this film so much. It's so good. I think it's so sharply crafted. Really love it. And I love that it's on your ballot too, Evan.
Yeah. And I'm glad it made it to HBO Max. So a lot of people can see it.
Yes. I know. I love that. Because it had a lot of buzz beforehand, but I feel like it just got such a wave of attention because of being on HBO Max, as it deserved, because it's so good. So my number 4 film is Titane by Julia Ducournau. And I love her. I loved her first film, Raw, and I love this film too. And it is so weird and bizarre and haunting. And it is bold, visually striking. It's delving into body horror and gender and sexuality. And this is so weird because this is a film that starts off where the protagonist is a serial killer. And she's a queer woman. She's a serial killer. She's very calculated and cold about it, just very matter of fact about it. And she has sex with a car within the first 10, 15 minutes of the film. And this film is weird. And you're like, where is this going? And then it starts to slowly shift from a film about a serial killer who has sex with cars and who has an infatuation with cars to a father-child story, because she inserts herself into this man's life and she poses as his missing son. And they have this incredibly tender bond, and it's very loving and very deep. And this film just is doing so many fascinating things and made me feel so many things that I was not expecting. It is sweet. It is strange. It is visually arresting. And I love it. And I love her vision. She is an extremely visionary filmmaker, and I cannot wait to see what else she does because I love her work, because her films just always floor me and always leave me just haunted and mesmerized. So loved this. Everything about it.
I'm embarrassed to say I still haven't seen it, but I've been hearing so much good stuff that it's that and Censor, I feel like I really need to see.
Me too.
Yes, you do. I wouldn't be embarrassed though, because there's so many films to see, there's just You can't see it all. But this I would highly recommend. Like I said, it is weird though. It is a really bizarre film. I mean, there's oil coming out of her body. I mean, that's the thing too. Like she becomes pregnant by the car. And so it is a weird movie, but I love that. I love like that it's so strange. Yeah, it's a really, so she, in the beginning she gets into a car accident as a kid. And so she has titanium plates like in her head and stabilizing her neck, which is where the title of the film comes in. But it's this really fascinating look at machine and flesh and bodies and being cold like a machine, but then how love and acceptance, how she warms up and changes emotionally. And it's just, it's so loving and lovely to see, but also so bizarre. It's great. I love it. I love it so much. I highly recommend it. It is a much deeper emotional film than I thought I was going to experience. And I'm just so glad I did. And it is just, it's wonderful and it's weird and it's unforgettable. Love it. My number 3 film is Passing because I love it so much. And this is, again, another film that watching it multiple times, I appreciated it even more. Tessa Thompson and Ruth Negga were my favorite performances of the year. Great direction, great cinematography. Love it. My number 2 film is The Power of the Dog by Jane Campion.
That's right. I was surprised we hadn't gotten to that yet.
Yeah.
I was like, that should come as no surprise since I went hard in the paint gushing about that film because I love Jane Campion, another one of my favorite filmmakers. I think this is a career best performance from Benedict Cumberbatch. I love Kirsten Dunst. I always love her. I've loved her ever since Interview with the Vampire. I think she is so great. I love Jesse Plemons. Cody Smith-McPhee is great in this too. He's doing some really interesting things because he's such a mercurial character and really shifting and changing and you don't quite know where he is. But Benedict Cumberbatch, I never understood why people were so into him when he was on Sherlock. And having watched his career in film, I get it now, especially in this film, because he's so good. He's so nuanced and I just love it. And I love this film so much. And I know I gushed about it before, so I'm not going to gush again, maybe a little gushing, but I love this film so much. And I love its exploration of masculinity and queerness and the American West and how, the cowboy is seen as the quintessential man and what does that actually mean and what does that look like and really digging into that and how tenderness and being gentle are very underrated traits and are really crucial and pivotal traits, but they're often jettisoned for a much harder, rougher exterior. And I really like that exploration. And I like the kind of cat and mouse game happening amongst the characters too. I just love this film. I love her work. I love everything. Love. And my number 1 film is Fernanda Valadez's Identifying Features.
I thought it might be high on your ballot based on how coy you were before.
I wanted to, leave the big reveal. But when I saw this in January, I was blown away. As you know, we talked about it. And I could not stop thinking about it. And then in November, it's still it was my number 1 film. So I start picking my top 10 around May or June. I start making my list and I'll make adjustments throughout the year, but I like to start thinking about it so I don't get quite as anxious and stressed about it because it is weirdly stressful for me. I don't know why it is, but I obsess over it. So this was my number 1 film far and away, very easily, and it just stayed number 1. And it was a film that every time I kept thinking about what films really moved me, this was always at the forefront. I mean, so many scenes from this, like when her son is walking towards her and it starts out blurry and then he becomes clear and then blurry again. The long shot of the other main character who is deported and as he's walking through the gate, coming through from the US to Mexico. That is such a haunting shot. Watching the main character as she's on a quest to find her son. And she keeps getting thwarted, but she keeps persisting and looking, and these shots of her by herself on like sunset lakes and just haunting, but these gorgeous, gorgeous images. And then at the end, the images of burning, which are awful and visceral and so powerful. And I just was absolutely destroyed by this movie. I think it's masterfully directed. I think Mercedes Hernandez as the protagonist is just outstanding. She was one of my favorite performances of the year. I love how the striking cinematography juxtaposes these like moments of absolute wrenching pain, but these like beautiful, gorgeous nature shots of like sunsets and beautiful trees. And it's so, it's a gutting film. And it's a film all about immigration and how dangerous it is for people in Mexico to cross the border, to try to cross the border into the US, and how so many of them go missing or are dead. And it's just this is a very personal, well, I shouldn't say very personal film, but Fernanda Valadez has talked about how she is a Mexican filmmaker, and she's talked about how this is just such a huge problem in her country, and she wanted to shine a light on it and tell a story about this and about the mothers looking for their children. And it's just gut-wrenching, but it is so beautifully done. And I cannot believe this is her directorial debut, because it is just so confidently made. Like, she has a very clear vision, and it is just so sharply done and well executed. And I another filmmaker, I can't wait to see what else she does. And I love this. And this is a film I've championed all year. I will continue to champion it because it is amazing. I always go for the films that destroy me, and this film destroyed me.
Yeah.
Rendered me a sobbing mess.
Couple of great lists, you two.
Thank you. I would say so yourself, sir.
Thank you.
I love that we had some overlap, but we also had a lot of differences, a lot of variations.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I like that.
It's funny because a lot of the films on both of your lists, I'm like, oh, that's in my top 20. Oh, that's in my top 20. It's so good.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes really just making the list can boil down, I think, for me, to depending on when you ask me, because
yes,
it's like I have to make a decision, but sometimes that decision is so agonizing that it's like on a different day, I could put a couple of movies that were not in the top 10 for when I made this list, could make it in, and those would shuffle out, but they'd still be in my like top 20 or 30 movies from the year.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of the reason in a way, I hate ranking things, but yet I also love ranking things. It's a dialectic. I both hate it and love it because I'm always like upset that I leave something out, but it's the nature of the game. You got to do it. So, but identifying features far and away, number one. I'm like, that I had no problem with whatsoever. I'm like, nope, number one, it's the best. So do we have any final thoughts on our lists?
Not for me. Just like I said before, good lists, gang.
Good job, all of us.
Yeah.
Like to pat ourselves on the back. Also, I love that Dave, you had documentaries, and I love that we also had so many films that were international films too, like global cinema. I love that.
Yep.
So we want to give a huge thank you to our editor, Otto Clamor. Otto, thank you for making us sound so great week after week.
Thanks, Otto.
Thanks, Otto.
You can find Spoiler Piece Theater anywhere you listen to podcasts. We are in all the places. You can also find us at our website, spoilerpiece.com. You can also find us all over the place on social media. We are at Spoiler Piece on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, TikTok. You name it, we're there. So come follow us, say hello. And speaking of saying hello, you can email us at spoilerpiece@gmail.com. Let us know which of these films you liked. What are your favorite films of the year? And in addition to emailing us, you can also give us a call
at 862-21-PEACE.
You can text us. You can leave us a voicemail message. But we want to hear from you. We want to know, what are your favorite films of the year? Do you agree with our picks? Do you disagree? We love it. We love hearing from you and love hearing your feedback, your comments, your questions. So be sure to reach out if you want, of course. And if you like the show, please consider rating and reviewing us. That really helps us out, get the word out about the show. You can go to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece, and that will take you to the platform that you want to rate us on. You can also rate us on Apple Podcasts. That really helps us out. And now you can rate us on Spotify. Spotify is now doing ratings on podcasts, and that also helps us out tremendously. And if you really like the show, consider joining our Patreon if you're not a patron already. For $5 a month, you get access to weekly bonus episodes, and you get to vote in monthly polls. This week's bonus episode, we talked about the 1999 teen rom-com 10 Things I Hate About You, which is very apropos for talking about top 10 lists of movies. And you also get access to our back catalog of films, which is actually, I was going to say it's almost 200. I think it's over 200 now at this point.
Yeah, I think we've pushed over 200 bonus episodes. But yeah, you get access to the whole catalog.
There's a lot. And the bonus episodes, most of them are pretty lengthy, which is nice. So you're getting some good discourse, good discussion.
Indeed.
And we always have a lot of fun with those too.
Yeah.
So my name is Megan Kearns. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. You can follow me on Twitter at OpinionSWorld or on Instagram and Letterboxd at TheOpinionS.
My name is Dave Riedel. I write about movies. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd as Dave Sees Movies.
And my name is Evan Crean. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd as Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
Thank you so much, listeners. We appreciate you, and we hope to see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.